Good day. Welcome to another lesson from our Super Dealmaker program. Today we're looking at developing a business plan. And this is our second lesson. The first lesson was on identifying business opportunity. So now today we're looking at conducting feasibility study. So what happens is, obviously the first step is to identify an opportunity. And how to identify opportunity, just go through our previous lesson. You'll see how you identify the opportunity and the things that you need to take into account when you're identifying an opportunity. Now, once you've identified that opportunity, and you must remember from the first lesson I indicated that not all opportunities are business opportunities, or not all opportunities are profitable or economical. There can be an opportunity, but when you look at it closely, you realize that it's not a viable or economic opportunity that you need to pursue as an entrepreneur. So, but in that lesson where you identify opportunities, it was just about the things that you need to consider and look at, like looking at the market trend, looking at the economic trend, understanding the customer base that you'll be targeting, understanding the legislation, and as well as making sure that you have the resources to pursue that opportunity. That's what we looked at when we looked at the module identifying business opportunity. Now we're going into conducting feasibility study. So you've done all that. After you've done all that, it's like a preliminary assessment. Once you've done that, then now we're going into conducting the feasibility. You've got the comfort to say, it appears that this opportunity is actually viable and it might be a good business opportunity. So what you do next is you conduct what we call feasibility study. So what is a feasibility study? A feasibility study is an exercise where a business or an entrepreneur is looking at an opportunity. They go into the analysis where you're analyzing this opportunity from a business perspective. So what you're going to look at is you go in detail to analyze the viability of the business. So the feasibility study is to analyze if this opportunity really means it's viable. Is it really economic? Is it profitable? So that's what the feasibility study is. So you want to see if this project is feasible. So generally, the feasibility study, there are certain key things that you look at. But first, before we go into those key things that we're gonna look at, first you need to understand that going into business, an entrepreneur will want to make a return on investment. There is an investment that you're gonna make in this business, and there must be, call it a return on investment. So the money must be able to come back with returns. And sometimes you might be looking for funding from external funding. So the feasibility study is to give those stakeholders or the potential stakeholders the confidence or the comfort that you've investigated this opportunity and this opportunity appears to be viable and profitable, because ultimately, if you're going into a business venture, the objective is to make money. So that's why people conduct feasibility study. One is to make sure to give themselves comfort to say this opportunity that they want to pursue, is it viable, before they lose money or they put more money into the business. So they conduct the feasibility and to analyze if this business is a good business opportunity. One. And two, when you present the business to stakeholders, let's say remember, a business is not an island. So there are certain stakeholders that you need to deal with. One, it might be a funding institution. Then when you're presenting your proposal for investment, then you need to convince them that this investment is a good investment. Feasibility study does that for you. 2, you might need government approval. Let's say you want to set up a hospital, or you want to set up a hotel, whatever. So you need to get government approval. So you need to conduct the feasibility to say, is it feasible for us to set up a hospital in this area? As part of the feasibility, you'll also be doing the EIAs, how much it's going to cost you, the building and all those. So feasibility give you a broader understanding of the project, the cost that needs to go into it, and the revenue that can be derived from it, and ultimately will it be sustainable as a project. So feasibility studies are very, very important. And there's one thing that I've realized, that entrepreneurs or SMMEs, they don't conduct these feasibilities, because most especially when they are funding the business on their own. So they just go into business, they identify a business opportunity, they jump in, and they end up burning their fingers, because there are certain things that if they had conducted a proper feasibility study, they would have identified those risks, and maybe they might have decided not to invest. So it's better to, if you don't have the expertise to conduct the feasibility study, it's better to appoint that consultant with expertise, so that they can save you money going forward. Because without the feasibility study, once you have set up, you'll know that you have spent a lot of money. Let's say, okay, hospital is quite a massive investment. Let's say you are setting up a retail shop. You've built that, you bought the stock, whatever, you've registered the company, you've done that, you've invested time in it. Then even if that business is not viable, because you have already spent a lot of money on it, you'll be married to that business. You will try by all means to make it work. But if you had done a proper feasibility study and spent money on doing the right things before you even start the business, then it would mean that you would have saved that capital investment that you have put into that business. So doing feasibility study, yes, you might consider it as a cost that most SMMEs, they try and avoid, but that money that you spend on feasibility can really save you a lot of investment that you could have investment that you would have to put into the business. And imagine worse if you're looking for funding. Yes, maybe a funding institution might not be looking for feasibility study, but trusting you and the information that you've given them, and they give you the funding for it. And then once the business goes under, the funders will be looking for their money, and the business would have went under and all that. And please believe me, business failure is not child's play, because you invest a lot of money, you invest time, you invest a lot of things in there. So if the business goes under because you didn't do the basic things that you had done, you will regret it. So conducting feasibility study, it's important so that you understand what this venture will expect from you, the resources that is going to need, the best approach that you should take in terms of establishing that business, which markets should you focus on or should you target, and the skills that will be required, and most importantly, the profitability of the business. Will this venture be profitable? Now, when you're conducting feasibility study, it consists mainly of 5 components, right? Okay, it depends. Different feasibility study might focus on different things, but the main things are these 5 components. First, you look at operational feasibility. Is this business operationally feasible? Can you operate this business? Is it practical to operate this business? Then the second one is the market. Do you have access to the market? Which is very, very, very important in terms of accessing the market. And then the third one is the human resources. Do you have the capacity or the skill or the team that is required to execute this project? And the fourth one is on strategy. Which business model should you go for in terms of strategy, business model? How should you approach it? How is it being done out there? And the fifth one is on the finance. Will this business ultimately make money? Will it achieve the return on investment? Because setting up a business doesn't matter if it's your own money, but that is an investment. So the question is, will this business venture eventually return the money to the shareholders or to the investors? Those are the 5 critical things that you look at when you're conducting the feasibility study. Then I'll just go into those components briefly so that I can explain what is the objective of doing those studies. Okay, I'll start with the first one, maybe the business model, the value proposition. So you need to investigate the sector, understand all the maybe not all, but the most prominent business models that exist in that sector that you are targeting. Now, is it which model or approach or organizational structure should you take for you to be successful in this? So what you do with the feasibility study, obviously you collect information about the industry. Who are the players? How are they operating? Which business models are they using? Which one is more feasible? Which one is suitable for you as a business, given your resources, where you're situated, the market that you're targeting, and all those things, the environment that you are operating within. So you need to look at the best feasible strategy or business model that you're going to implement. Obviously, there's a lot of literature that you need to go through to understand the business model that you need to implement. And different businesses are implementing different business models. Maybe I'll give example with the retail stores, right? You have a Woolworths model, which is high-end organic products and all that, and the quality, it's up there. So that's one model that Woolworths decided, in terms of the retail side, food retail, that Woolworths decided to take, right? And then you have your ShopRite, Checkers, and not ShopRite, but your Checkers, Pick and Pay and Spar, which are more in the middle. So they're not giving you the high-end organic stuff, but they're giving you quality stuff in terms of the pricing, and the shops are a little bit cleaner. The service is up there. They're looking after the customer. The customer service is different. The packaging is different. And even the products that they stock is different. Always it's different from the Woolworths one, where they are buying. I have to assume that they are buying, not claim to be buying. But let's say they are buying organic stuff, which are well packaged and the quality is top notch. And then your Pick and Pay, Checkers, Spar in the middle. They're not giving you the Rolls Royce of your groceries, but they give you something decent quality. Okay, not the other ones. Others, not necessarily that they're not giving you decent quality. But then you have that model. And then you have the low-end model, which is your USave, your OK, your Score, which now those ones, they're looking at giving you the best price, right? So they're targeting people who wants to save money, they want the best price and all that. So they're not into maintenance, nice things in the shops and all that. That's now the different business models that you get, where the low end, your USave, your Score, your OK, they are focused on price, making sure that they give you the cheapest price. But you'll see the customer service is not the best. The cleanliness in the store is not the best. The quality of the product that they're selling is not the best. And then the ones in the middle, which is your ShopRite, your Checkers, Pick and Pay, and Spar, the quality is better than those ones. And then you get your Woolworths, which has decided on that niche market, that top end. And you can see, even in the competitive landscape, Woolworths is on its own. But it can be, because it can afford to, okay, there's no other player that can be accommodated there, because the high-end market is small. Yes, they are paying top dollar for the product, but the market itself is small. So they can't play. Not many players can enter that space. But the middle one, which is your Checkers, Pick and Pay, and Spar, that's big. That's why you have the three biggest operators in that space. And then the USave, Score, as well big, but in terms of the structure, you find the shops are generally smaller, and they put them on high traffic areas. So you see, now if you are going into retail, and then you get your spaza shops and small ones that are in communities and all that. So you have those four. The spazas, obviously you will find even rotten stuff there. They don't care as long as you're looking for stuff, and the quality of the product is not concerned, because it's purely on price and convenience. And even the fake products are there in the spaza market. So you have these four markets, which in terms of operation, they are all operating on different operating model. So if you're setting up a retail shop, you need to know which model you're going for, because the logistics of Woolworths are not the same as the logistics of spaza shop. The spaza shop guy will go to a wholesaler and buy chicken, whatever, and throw it in the van and take it to the shop. Then the Woolworths guy, they need to make sure that they maintain the cold chain. They don't move stuff from here, put them in the sun, they defrost, then they put it back in the fridge, because the market is different. But the spaza shop guy can afford to do that. So operationally, which model is it practical for you if you are setting up a retail shop? So I'm just giving you that perspective so that you understand the different models that you can go for. So if you are going for a spaza shop, or if you are in deep rural area, it might be difficult for you to set up a Woolworths type of setup, because one, you might have limited high-end consumers. Most of them is the lower LSM, which is like 1, 2, 3, whatever. They don't, people without money. So now, if you set up a Woolworths in a small rural town, then the logistics of it, making sure that you maintain the quality, making sure that you buy the organic products and all those things. One, your logistics to get them, because you might not have access to such fresh produce stuff, grade A type of stuff, because you are far from the suppliers. And because the Woolworths model is more fresh stuff, so you need to be doing the traveling every day to get your fresh stuff, which is long distance and all that. It might be costly for you. And on the other side, you might not have enough customers to buy those products. So it might be a futile exercise. So that model might not be feasible in a rural small town setting. But if the spaza shop business model, it might be the one that is more viable in that setting. So when you're conducting feasibility study, that's what you're trying to ascertain. Which business model should you go for? Which business model is feasible in the area that I'm operating in? That's the most important one there, because that now it will guide you in terms of the structure, in terms of the infrastructure that you have to put in terms of the funding that you need to raise. So the first one, but you can run them concurrently, all the component of feasibility. But that one, for me, is the first one that you need to decide in terms of the feasible business model that you're going to go for, and call it the strategy that you're going to implement for your new venture or a new product, or even if you are introducing a new product. That's what you look at when you're looking at business model feasibility. That's one of the key components that you need to look at, the feasibility of the model that you're trying to implement. Okay, now we spoke about the business model feasibility, right? Now we're going into the market feasibility. And I've realized that actually when entrepreneurs or call it companies or whatever, that when they say they want a feasibility study, they are talking about market study. That's what I've realized. That's a tendency out there to refer the market study or market analysis with feasibility. Okay, as I said, they are totally different, because with feasibility, you're looking at mainly the 5 components that I've mentioned. So we've looked at the business model feasibility, right? Now we're coming at the market feasibility, which as well is the second most important, according to me. It doesn't matter. There are different school of thoughts in terms of what is important, what is the most important part of the feasibility. But the business model feasibility is, to me, the most important one, because it guides you in terms of the approach when it comes to your market feasibility. Because now we've decided that in a small rural town, it wouldn't be feasible to set up a Woolworths. Now we're going for a spaza shop. Because we're setting up a spaza shop, now we need to look at the market of a spaza shop, because we already decided on the business model that we're taking. But if when we didn't decide on the business model as yet, then when we're doing the market analysis, we'll have to look at all the markets, investigate all the markets opportunities, and from analyzing all the market opportunities and come up with the most feasible market that we can target. Okay, so we're going to spend more money on, or more time or resources on doing the market study of even relevant things. But by doing your business model feasibility first, you've already now narrowed down your other feasibility components. Now with the market, we know that we're setting up a spaza shop. Now we need to look at the market in the area. Okay, one, a simple economics, the buying power of that market. How big is that market that we're targeting? Because the size of the market will determine the size of the store that we want to establish. And it will determine the quantity in terms of the stock that we hold. We need to know the size of the market, the economic power of the market that we're targeting. So by looking at the economic power, how much buying power do these people have? And what do they buy? Which products or services do they buy? So if a person is earning, let's say 10,000 rand per month, and then you need to be able to break it down in terms of what do they spend. This is, they spend 2,000 on education, spend another 2,000 on food, and then 2,000 on travel and accommodation stuff, and then maybe another 2,000 on household stuff, other household stuff like maintenance and helpers and all those things. So if they're spending 2,000 rand, we know they're earning 10,000 rand, but we know that the pace or the budget that we're targeting is that 2,000 rand. And then we look at it to say, okay, it's 2,000 rand, how many people? If they're on average they're spending 2,000 rand on grocery. And then once you looked at how many people, you know your global market, right? You know how big the market that you're targeting is. Now you start looking at your competition. Who are you competing with? How many players are in that market? Okay, so because now we know the person is earning 10,000, but 2,000 spent on education, others. But what we're targeting from the 10,000 that this person is earning, we're targeting that 2,000. Now we forget about the other 8,000. So our focus now is for the 2,000 that is being spent in the community by each, or by averagely each household. Now, once we know that our market, our global market, the total market that we're targeting is 2,000 rand. Then we look at the competition in the area. So you need to analyze who are you competing with. All the grocery stores in the area, you need to analyze them. Look at their strengths, their weaknesses, and the type of product that they carry, so that you can find your gap in there. So you look at the product that they carry, the type of customers they are servicing, the approach that they are taking as a spaza shop. Are they bigger? Are they taking orders? Are they selling on credit? Are they are focusing on social grants, or whatever the model that they are using. So we have 2,000 that we are fighting for with our competitors. Then we need to analyze our competitors to see how are they approaching the market. What are their strengths, their weaknesses, and then from analyzing their strengths and weaknesses, then we'll be able to identify the opportunity that we can take in that market. So after analyzing, let's say from that 2,000, maybe 200, maybe 500 rand goes to food. And then maybe another 500 rand goes to toiletry and washing stuff. And then maybe the other 500 rand goes to electricity in terms of other things, maybe the drinks, the alcohols, and on all those things. Maybe they're spending 1,000 on alcohol and other drinking stuff, which are not necessarily food for consumption in the household. So let's say now by looking at that, we look at which market should we target. Given that our competitors are approaching this market like this, then we look at the gap. Where is the gap? Because we know that the consumers are spending 2,000 rand per household. We know that they're spending 500 rand on food, and then other 500 rand on other consumables, and then 1,000 rand on drinks and alcohol. So we look at this one. Can we penetrate the alcohol market? If it's a no, we look at, can we penetrate the other household goods market? If it's a no, can we penetrate the food market? If it's a no, then we don't have a business, right? But maybe there is a market that we can penetrate, because one, you look at the value, the economic value, how much are they spending? And two, you look at your competitors. How are they playing this market? So that you can find a gap in their approach. Then once we find the gap, then we need to quantify that gap. Let's say maybe some competitors are doing all three, then we decide to specialize. Let's say we go for the big one, the alcohol. Then we become alcohol retail store. Yes, we might have other things, but the focus now for us is the alcohol, because if you focus on alcohol, we won't have other costs. So we can buy in bulk. We can focus on getting best prices, because we're selling limited products. We go for alcohol, and alcohol is got high margins. Okay, I don't know, but I'm assuming that it's got higher margins. And then we target that because it's got higher margins. Then remember I said the household is averagely earning 10,000, but the 2,000 is going into food and grocery spending. And then from that 2,000, we've identified that 3,000 is going to alcohol. So now our targeted segment in that market, that means we are targeting the 1,000 rand, not the 10,000 rand, not the whole 2,000 rand, but we are targeting the 1,000 rand. Okay, that's now we've targeted that market. So for that 1,000 rand, then we start now drilling down now, understanding who is servicing. Remember, we looked at the suppliers who are servicing the whole retail market, and we realized that the others are a little bit saturated. Then that's why we decided to go for the alcohol market. Then in that alcohol market, there's still players in there. So we start dissecting now these players in the alcohol specific market. We look at who's strong, who's weak, who's got how many market share in that space. So sometimes it's not easy because the data is not readily available, most especially if you are looking at a smaller scale, let's say at a community level or a town level. You might have data on maybe provincial or national or international, but you might not have the data at a local level. But how are you going to get the actual data? Because the competitors are not going to give you the data. And now you need to look at maybe interviewing consumers, understanding their buying patterns and their preference for the brand. That's one approach. Okay. Where you speak to the consumers to say, why are they buying, which brand are they buying, why are they buying that brand of alcohol or from that shop or from that retailer. So once you have the understanding of their buying patterns, then from that data, you could be able to determine the market share of each player. So once you got the figures, you know which players, based on the research that you've done by engaging with the consumers, can be able to identify which players are owning what percentage. It's an estimate now. So once you break it down to say player 1 is owning 20, player 2, 30, player 3, 40, player whatever, then you look at which market share will you be able to steal from these people. Who's the weakest link here? Which, in terms of the approach, who should you target in terms of stealing the market share? Because if you're starting a new project or a new product offering or a new business, you need to get the market from somewhere. And just remember as well, in marketing terms, right? If you are targeting more than 10% of the market, you must know that these people that you're trying to steal the market from, they will definitely react. Maybe initially, don't go too big in terms of the market share that you want to take from the others. Because if you take a bigger chunk of the market, then they will react. And that might cause your business to fail. So to avoid a reaction, you target a smaller component of the market so that they don't even feel that you are here. Unless if you have serious financial muscles to be able to compete on price and all those things. So, but if you don't have the muscle to compete on price, the best thing is to take a smaller chunk of the market. You know they're not going to react. They're not going to feel it initially. So that you build your strength. And then once you have established yourself in the space and you understand the dynamics of that sector, then you can go for the next portion. Maybe let's say initially we targeted 5%, then you're going to go for maybe another 5% to get it to 10%. So that when they react, you understand you also have built a little bit of loyalty within the market, so that even when they react, you'll be able to survive. But just coming into the market, going for more than 10% of the market, you're running the risk of your business not being feasible. And as you're doing feasibility study, that is one of the things that you look at. How big is the market, and how big, for you to be sustainable, what is the size of the market that you need to take? So let's say we have identified the alcohol, then let's say we're targeting 5% of that market. And then that's now our market. We know this is the market that we're targeting. Remember, the first lesson on this module, we said we know the business model that we're implementing, spaza shop, right? And then we looked at the consumption to say, what are people spending on? Then we identify food, which we said from the 10,000 rand household income, 2,000 rand goes to food or household maintenance. Then in that household, we identify from the 2,000 rand, 1,000 rand goes to alcohol. Then we drill down to say, from the alcohol, we know that we are targeting the 1,000 rand per household. Then we analyze the players in that market. We saw who's strong, who's weak, and then how much market we'll be able to capture in that alcohol market. Then we said, no, we're going to be able to capture 5% of the 1,000 market. So it means 5% of 1,000 rand is 50 rand per household. So now, can the business survive on 50 rand per household in that area on average? That's when you look at the feasibility. So one, we looked at the market, we looked at the players, we looked at if it's feasible for us to enter the market. So we saw that when you're doing the competitor analysis, we saw that there are certain weaknesses that we'll be able to take advantage of. And from the analysis, we've seen that you can take 5% of that. So market-wise, it's already showing that it is feasible that we can get 5% of the market. But you might find certain markets that you will not be able to penetrate. You will not be able to get even the 1% from market. You find that the market, you have very, very, very strong players that are operating there. Let's say using the retail market. Let's say you have Score, you have ShopRite, you Save, you have OK in a small town. So you see that small market. And then you still have the spaza shops around those. So that market might be the toughest market to enter. That means it might not be feasible for a new player to enter that market because it's saturated. So that's the decision that needs to be made from when you're doing your market feasibility to say, can I enter this market? And from this market, how much revenue can I generate? And from this analysis now, we have realized that, okay, practically you can generate 50 rand per household if you were going to enter this market. So from the market perspective, this is the market. We identify the market, we identify the economics of the market. You see if you'll be able to enter the market, how difficult it is for a new player to come into that market. As for you, as a new player, you need to determine how difficult it is for you to enter that market, and you see if you enter that market, how much market share can you grab from the existing guys. And if you grab that market share that you have identified, what is your revenue? How much would you generate from that? So we said you generate 50 rand from the analysis that we just did, and let's say you have 1,000 household. Then if you're taking 50 rand from each market, each household, then we have 50,000 per month. That's our market. So, but you're going to see if it's worth it or not when you're looking at the operations and the financial data. So we've done the analysis. We've indicated that there is a gap in this market. We can be able to grab 5% of the market. So now that's a phase in terms of value. But you look at the competitors as well. Will the competitors react? If they react, how will they react? Okay, because you will be competing with the existing player. So you need to analyze them, know their market share, know their strengths and weaknesses, know if they will be able to react to you entering that market. And if they will react, can you sustain the competition for you to stay in that market? Then if you can sustain the competition from the existing or the incumbents or the existing players in that market, then you are ready to enter the market. Then that's when you consider that, no, this market is feasible. Then you can enter the market. So we've now ticked the first and the second box. The first box that we ticked is on business model. Then the second box that we're ticking now, we're ticking on the market. The market is viable. Okay, now I'm just considering the viable one, but maybe the market might not be viable. We might have a small market in the area. Imagine if we're going with the Woolworths. Looking at this market, the biggest market is alcohol. Maybe the Woolworths is not that big on okay, as far as I know, on alcohol. So there is no feasibility if we're going for the high-end approach. And then we couldn't enter the market. So it will make the market not feasible. But by deciding on the feasible business model first, then it made it easier for us to decide in terms of the market, the target market that we're looking at. And then we said we're going to get 5% of the market, and the market is paying 50 rand per household, and then there are 1,000 households in the area. So for this venture, market-wise, we'll be able to generate about 50,000 per month. That's your market study now, or the market feasibility. You looked at this market, you looked at the risk of entering that market, you looked at the competitors, you looked at how the market share that you'll be able to grab, and then the next thing is you look at the pricing as well. How are they pricing their product in that market? So if the pricing and the margins and all that, so from 50 rand, you need to understand the pricing to say, yes, you're going to generate 50 rand, but how much is the net profit from the 50 rand? If you are buying from alcohol from SAB, for argument's sake, how much are we paying? How is the pricing? And now you also look at the pricing of the local competitors, because remember, your pricing, you need to still to be competitive. You need to know, will you still be able to compete with them in terms of the price if you enter in that space? So you need to look at the price, the margins within that price. How much do I buy my raw material for? And how much can I sell it for? Given the price that is given in that market. Then you decide on the market and you know what are the margins for. Because remember, revenue is not profit. Profit is when after you've deducted all your expenses. So we can say we're going to make 50,000 revenue, but that's not profit. So we need to decide on how much profit will we be able to generate. And for you to determine that, you need to understand the pricing in the sector that you are going in. So if it's a retail market, you are buying, you need to add your markup. And then you look at how much markup can you add by looking at the pricing from your competitors. So the pricing from your competitors, they'll tell you how much the pricing in the market are they doing. So you need to make sure that you comply with that. And you analyze, then you know these are the revenue and these are the margins, this is how we're going to price and all that. And then that will filter now into your financials. Once you look at the financials, based on this market analysis, then you'll decide. So, but you need to know the trends as well of the market to say how often the price increases. When is the peaks of the market in terms of customers? When do they buy most? When do they buy less? So that you can plan accordingly. That's understanding of the market. And then as well as understand where you're going to put your product or your store. You need to identify the place that will make business sense compared to the industry, and choose the place that will give you a competitive advantage. And then you look at the promotion. How are they promoting their product? Will you be able to promote your product in that sector? Then that now gives you the comfort that this market is feasible, it's ripe, I can enter this market and the business can be sustainable. That's now, in a nutshell, how you look at the market feasibility. Yes, there are other factors that you'll have to look at, but these are the core, the crux of market feasibility. Now that you've spoken about market feasibility, then we need to go into the operational feasibility. Now we spoke about the business model feasibility, we looked at the market feasibility. Now that we know the business model that we're going to implement, the market that we'll be targeting, now we go into the operational. How do we operational this? Can we feasibly, viably implement this project? One, operationally, okay, because you chose the spaza shop. I mean, the spaza shop operations are simple. All you need is obviously operate maybe the building. Will we be able to? Will the municipality allow us to build a spaza shop building? Will we be able to get the necessary approval, the permit to operate? And I mean, spaza shop, we don't need feasibility studies. No, what do you call it? Environmental impact analysis. In terms of operation, you don't need licenses. So when it comes to operational feasibility, is after you have identified the business model and you have identified the market that you'll be servicing, now can you service this market operationally? Can you, in terms of the logistics? So for the spaza shop, obviously the operational feasibility becomes a limited exercise, because one, you check if you will be able to, where you putting but you're selling the alcohol, so we can't put the operation next to the school. It's not operational. But if you find that that's the only land that is available for our business, or is the land that we bought and we wanted to set up a business there, then operationally it becomes not feasible for us to to put liquor business next to the school. So it becomes operationally not. And then the second one, we need a liquor license. If we don't have a liquor license and we can't obtain the liquor license, then operationally we're facing challenges to say operationally it's not feasible. And then permission to occupy or the zoning and all that, because you need approvals for you to zone the place. So you look at those things, and we not only look at if it's possible to get them, how long will it take for you to get the necessary licenses? Because if it's taking you 10 years to get the necessary license, let's say you wanted to set up maybe a recycling plant. To do EIA, you need to do EIA and apply for the licenses and all those things. So that can take you 3-4 years. Is the business still feasible or viable after 4 years? Those are the investigations that you need to do to get comfort. And as well, you look at the type of operations that you have to set up. Will you be able to get equipment? How much will those equipment cost you? Do you have to build? Do you have building plans? How much will it cost you to build? Those things are now you're operational, you're investigating what is required for you to start operating in terms of the business processes. Do you need a building? Do you need licenses? Do you need accreditations? You need a lot of things that you need. So once you've determined the things that you need, then you cost them to say, operationally, I'm going to need, for a license, I need so much, for equipment, I need so much, for this and this, I need so much. So now you have the costing for setting up the operation. Is it still feasible? Can you get those licenses? Can you get those equipment? Find that maybe you want a tire recycling plant. Will you be able to get it, which is in compliance with the legal, the local laws? Yes, you can. You can get it where you get the quotations. You cost the operations to say, to operate, I need 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this 1, 2, 3, 4, they'll cost me 1, 2, 3, 4. And the process will be this. Will you be able to produce the product that is required? Do you need SABS approval? Do you need food and safety for you to produce certain things? So those are the operational feasibility. Will you be able to get those necessary things and produce the product that is acceptable to the market, that is approved by the customers? But if it's a spaza shop, obviously the operational due diligence becomes limited. I mean, you just need permission or whatever, the operating license. Then you need the building, which is not a complicated thing. You need obviously approval, and then we need the license for the liquor, because we decided to go with the liquor retail, right? But if you're setting up a mining operation, then you need to do the EIA in terms of the impact. We need to do community engagement. You need to do the mining plan. You need to do the development plan. You need to make sure that you get all the necessary environmental approvals from the department. You need to make sure that you have agreements with the community in terms of the stakeholders. So operationally, to operationalize a mine is more complicated than operationalizing a spaza shop. But you need to do your investigation and due diligence on the operations for you to understand how much it will cost you. And if it's feasible for you to get certain things that you need to establish the operation. So that's very, very important to make sure that operationally, can you operationalize this business plan of yours or this opportunity that you have identified for you to be able to service the market that you have identified. So those are the key things that you look at when you're doing the operations feasibility, to see if operationally, technically, will you be able to produce this product or this service that they're looking for. In terms of looking at the factory, the production process, will you be able to get the equipment? Will you be able to get the raw materials? Do you have access to raw material in terms of that? Do you have licenses? If, let's say, you are setting up a brick manufacturing, you say you're going to get sand from the river there. Do you have the licenses to do this? So the operational is more about making sure that you have the necessary approvals, necessary infrastructure, the necessary processes for you to be able to deliver on the product and services. That's very important, that you make sure that you are compliant with all the legislations, you are compliant with the requirement of your sector. That's now operations due diligence. So you need to look at that, and remember, with operations, it's going to tell you how much it will cost you to set up the operation. So ultimately, one, if it's feasible that you will be able to get those things that are required to you to operate. But the other end product of the operations feasibility study is the outcome in terms of how much will it cost you to set up to comply with the relevant legislation and to put in the plant and equipment to access the raw material and all that. From that operation side, and they call it generally operations, they call it technical feasibility sometimes. From that technical feasibility, you'll get the costing. Yes, you tick the box to say regulations, licenses, products, equipments, all the requirements that the industry needs. I have proper zoning, I have the EIA, I have the license to operate. Then once you have all those and it's feasible, the one that you don't have, but it's feasible for you to get them. And then you have the building plans and whatever, the costing, the quantity surveyors. Make sure that the costing that comes from your technical feasibility, it's solid and it gives you a proper indication of how much it's going to cost you for you to set up that operation. So the result, it will be, can you operationalize this thing? If the answer is yes, after looking at all this, you look at the cost. How much will it cost me to set up this operation? Those two are the main outcome of your operation or your technical feasibility. Once that is done, then now we're moving into your human resource feasibility. We have looked at our business model feasibility. Now we've looked at the market feasibility or market study. We looked at operations or technical feasibility. Now we're looking at the team or the management feasibility. Okay, with the management feasibility, the main thing is, do you have or can you access the necessary skills that will be required for you to run the operation? Okay. Yes, sometimes the labor is part of you doing the operational feasibility. But personally, I prefer the labor and the management and the team consideration. We put it exactly under management feasibility. So from that, then you determine that do I have the necessary skills to execute this project? Or do I have access to the necessary skills for this project to be successful? Yes, for the spaza shop, you might not be needing rocket scientists to work in your spaza shop, but if you're running a serious plant, you might need technical skills. Let's say you want to set up a mining business, or I don't know, a solar plant, or whatever that it might require technical skills. So the question is, you might find you are setting up in somewhere in some village somewhere. The question is, will the skilled people be willing to work at that place? Yes. I mean, obviously, most of the time they might be willing to come work for the right money, of course. But now the right money might make the project not feasible, because you need to pay a lot of money for people to come work for you. You might have to provide them with accommodation, and it might be a little bit stressful, most especially if you're running a project that requires serious skills for it to operate. So you look at your current skills level, then you look at the required skills level. Can you acquire this skills level in the area that you are in? So maybe we need to outsource the production to China or whatever, because you don't have the necessary skills in the country or in your area. So you need to do, is it feasible? Is it practical for you to get the people that you're looking for in terms of their operations? So it depends on the size of the operations. But sometimes this one, it gets ignored when they're looking at the feasibility. But you need, because the business to be viable, it needs the home bodies. Okay, most businesses, you need home bodies. You need committed, skilled and motivated workforce for you to successfully run the operation. So you need to assess the skills requirement, the availability of the skill, the cost of the skill, and the retention of that. Is it practical or feasible for you to recruit the skill, to keep the skill, to motivate the skill, so that you sustain your operations? Because you can put the factory there and maybe entice them with good salaries, but to come there, find that the life is low there. There's nothing happening. People get demotivated, they end up resigning and leaving. So without the skill, then you might not be able to run a feasible project. So skills audits are very, very important. You do the skills audit, you look at the enterprise, what is required, and then you develop a plan around that to say how much it's going to cost you and all that. So the cost of your operation in terms of the people side. So this is the people feasibility, to determine if you have the skills, how much is going to cost you, how much is going to cost you to retain that skill and all that. If you can get the skill, remember the project might not take off because you don't have the skill. You might have everything else, but if you don't have the necessary manpower or warm bodies that will be able to make this project feasible, then the project becomes a non-starter. Yeah, and then, for example, I was looking at one hospital feasibility. Remember, you might want to, it might be a noble idea to set up a hospital in rural areas. But do you have nurses in the area? Do you have enough referral doctors in the area? Do you have people who are willing to work there, the specialists, medical specialists that are willing to work in your area? Because it's nice, but if you don't do the people or skills audit or skills viability or management viability, as I call it, you might set up there, build nice fancy things, but you don't have people to service the customers who comes to the operation. So just be careful. Make sure that you understand the required skill. Run a proper feasibility. Will you be able to secure that? So that you do that and you understand the cost implication, the payments in that area. Is it making it feasible for you to recruit and run the operation that you want to set up? But in terms of management feasibility, it's not a big component of the feasibility study. Because the big one is on the business model. Then the market study becomes a critical one, market feasibility, and operational feasibility as well, it becomes the big one. And then you get the smaller component, which is the management feasibility. Remember, you're looking at, when you're doing feasibility study, right, you need to identify the risk and the mitigating factors. So the highest risk lies on execution. If you can execute a project, then the project is likely to fail. So the management part is very, very, very important. You need to do your proper due diligence and feasibility and make sure that you can access the necessary skills, the necessary warm bodies to make this project viable. So that's on the management side, but the things that you're supposed to look at when you're doing your management feasibility. Now we're going into the last component of the feasibility study, which is the financials. With the financials, basically the financials are just putting everything that you spoke about together. So you take your market study, which shows that you'll be able to make 50 rand per household for 1,000 households. Then you plug it in the financials, how much is going to cost you to buy the products. You plug it there. How much is going to cost you to set up the operations, which is the figure that we got from operations feasibility study. You plug it in, then you look at cost of employees or management cost, employees and management cost. You plug it in, Then from there, it will tell you if the business will be profitable or not. Okay, that's now, you'll conclude that financially, the business is financially feasible. After you've looked at the business model, obviously the business model leads into the market that you're going to target. So you look from the market, you look at how much money will you be able to make. Then from the operation side, you need to look at how much will it cost you to run this operation. And then from the management side, you look at how much it will cost you to get the right team in place. Then from there, you look at the money that you will make, the cost of money that you make, that you get it from marketing, the cost of operations for you to produce whatever that you need to produce, or to sell whatever that you need to sell if you're a retail shop, the cost of labor and management. Then the difference, maybe you look at it per month. Initially, you look at when you're doing the feasibility study or the projection, the first 24, it's important for you to break down your first 2 years monthly, so that you know. Sometimes, remember, based on the market feasibility, there might be seasonalities, and then there is a learning curve as you start. So it's always better, and that's what the finance institution prefer, to do your first 24 months projections using monthly projections instead of just doing an annual projections, because that now, it takes into account the seasonality, it takes into account the ramp up from zero to wherever that you need to get to. It takes into account the learning curves in terms of production and all that. So now that's on the income side and the cash flow side. Is the business making profit after you looked at these components? Is the revenue that you got from the marketing feasibility, you take the cost from what you did from technical feasibility, you take the cost from management feasibility, then the net is it a net positive or negative? If it's positive, then you know that you have a likely feasible project in your hand financially. And obviously you'll have looked at how much is required to set up the project. Then the important thing is it feasible for you to secure the funding? Is it practical? Will you likely to secure the funding for the project? Because without funding, there is no project. And remember, I always encourage bootstrapping initially, but there are certain projects that you cannot bootstrap. You need a funding institution to come on board. So based on the profitability that you determine, as I said, after looking at the market feasibility and the operation feasibility and the management feasibility, you take the revenue that you can potentially generate, less the operating cost, less the management cost or labor cost, then you get the profit. If it's profitable, then it's a good start. Then from that profit, how much investment is required? Will that profit be able to repay back the money that you're going to be borrowing, or the money that, even if it's you putting in money, you still have to be repaid, right? Will that money that you'll be generating from this project be able to sustain the debt, be able to pay back the investors with the return that they are looking for? So if the business cannot be able to repay the investors and return the required return on investment, then the business is not viable. Because one, without money, you can't set up that business. And two, even if you are self-funding it, there must be a return on investment that you're looking for. So if the net profit or the profit that you generate from it doesn't give you the necessary return, basically the project is not viable financially. It met all the viability tests that you have done in the process. The business model is viable. The market appears to be viable. You will be able to enter the market. Operationally, it's viable. You can execute the project. Management, you can get the team. You have the skills, the necessary skills and expertise that is required to run the project. But the numbers, they're not agreeing. And as they say, numbers don't lie. But yeah, there's some numbers that lie. But as they say, numbers don't lie. So if the profit is not enough to repay back the loan or to give investors the return on investment, it means the project is not viable. Financials, you look at them last because they take all the inputs from the other feasibility studies, the other components of feasibility studies that you'll be doing. And you will ultimately look at if it's financially feasible. And as an entrepreneur, you must always do that to see if this project is financially feasible. You must not do projects that are not feasible with hope that maybe it might be feasible. So the financial component is what you do last, and then if it looks good, it gives good return on investment, then you invest in the business and you start, or you apply for funding. Then you'll be able to prove why you believe the business is financially viable. And then you'll have touched on all 5 important feasibility components. And then you prepare your nice feasibility report, and then when you submit it with your business plan, then you submit it with your feasibility, then you sit and wait, hope that you get the funding. But funding is key, because if you don't get the funding, then the project it's a non-starter. So you need to make sure that ultimately the project can give you the return on investment that will make sense to an investor, or even if you are putting your own money. But the return on this project, it needs to make sense. So that's now on the financial feasibility. And if it makes sense, then you will say the project is strategically or business model feasible, is market feasible, it's technically feasible, is management feasible, and financially is feasible. So those are the 5 conclusions that you will reach for you to now start implementing the business plan. Because without a feasibility study, you might be going into a business that might not, or it might cause you to lose money. So make sure that you do your feasibility study. And as I said from the beginning of the session, feasibility study will save you a lot of money, because you might end up investing in the business to only realize that the business is not viable, instead of spending money upfront to decide whether you should start this business or not. So feasibility study is key for entrepreneurs when they are starting their business. They need to do it. It's important so that they don't take unnecessary risks. Okay, thank you. That's our lesson on feasibility, and we'll look at the next lesson will be on operational plan. Take care.